want to remove the belief that you can give yourself life by your good works, so that you don't miss his mark for your life,
Right.
which is that you live and never die.
Yes.
So God's whole dream for your life isn't that you could obey commandments. That's not his dream for your life. His dream for your life is that you could live and never die.
Yes.
That's what
In
he's trying to
relationship with him.
bring forth in your life. That you can live and never die. Right? That's what he wants for you. Now, man was dying. And the more he tried to tell man, the reason you're dying is because you keep trusting in your works. Just rest in me. I will save you from the death that's in the world. They couldn't understand. They couldn't hear. He did all those things when he led them out of Egypt.
Right.
All those things, and they still cried out for the flesh. It says they still wanted the flesh. That's typology. They still trusted in their own works. So God gave them the law to show them that the thing they were believing on was causing death to reign over them. Mm-hmm. And that death was taking their members captive and bringing forth its fruit in them. And God wanted to remove that belief from their heart so they wouldn't miss his mark for their life. What's God's mark for our lives? That we live and not die.
Yes.
What did he say to Adam? Adam, don't eat from that tree because it will kill you. He didn't want Adam to die. He wanted Adam to live. And so God's got a mark for your life. His mark for your life is that you live eternally and that you never die, and that he loves you with all of his heart, with all his soul, with all of his strength for all eternity. That's his mark for your life. Well, guess what the word sin means? To miss the mark. But we think the mark is that we can behave good.
Right.
We think
Exactly.
we think God is like Mommy Dearest in that movie about Joan Collins that is all the time bent about her kids' behavior and then wants to smack them around for their behavior. That's the image we have of God.
Right.
And so we think God is after our behavior. But God's after us living and not dying. Because if he can get life in us and we can be persuaded that we possess life, guess what's going to come out of us? The fruit of life. Right? Hold on. And so that's what God is after. He's after us living and not dying. The problem is we were dying. That's the problem, not a sin nature.
Right.
The problem is we were dying. And then that death was reigning over us. And if you're dying, guess what you want? You want life. And if you want life and you think you don't have it, guess what you're going to do to get it? Whatever it takes. We see all types of examples where we think, did those people do that? Like, what's one of the examples of the airplane crash where they ended up eating the other people because they didn't want to die?
Alive, yeah.
Alive.
Yeah.
Human beings will do crazy things to not die. Mm-hmm. And we wonder, why'd they do that? You know why they did that? Because they think they're separated from what they need for life. And that's why they did it. And so God doesn't look at our behavior and think, I wish they would behave right. He looks at people that are dying and he says, the problem for my people is that they're dying. And so when he thinks of what's the solution, he thinks of, how can I kill death?
Right.
How can I do away with death?
Right.
That's the problem. So what does Jesus come and do? He
away with
takes
death.
the wages of our sin into himself, which is what? Death. There he is on the cross with our death. Now he takes our death into the grave. Now he comes out of the grave without our death. Paul says, never to die unto sin again.
Right.
Then he says, you were baptized into his death.
Right.
You died with him. And in that he died unto sin once for all time. Mm-hmm. Likewise, consider yourself to be dead unto sin once for all time. What does that mean? Death no longer has dominion over you.
Yes.
Because he who is free, then he goes on to say, he who is dead is freed from sin.
Right.
We're already dead.
Right.
How many of us are living like we're trying to fight for our life in this world? You want to know why your members are taken captive to the works of the flesh?
They're not.
Because you're still living as if death is reigning over you.
Right.
You're still living as if the world is the father of your life. You're still living as if this world and the tribulation and the corruption in this world can separate you from life. You're still living as if this world can take from you, steal from you, that it can separate you from God and his life. That's what will bring forth stealing in you, gossiping in you, envy in you, covetousness in you. That's what will bring forth all the works of the flesh in you. And so God says, the way that I'll put their members to rest, God's not dumb. He sees what's taken our members from rest is death. And so if he wants to put our flesh to rest, he comes and promises the flesh that's dying the thing that it wants. Well, what does the flesh that's dying want? It wants to live.
Right.
It wants to live and not die. And so God says, I see this flesh that I made. I actually made human flesh. Human flesh isn't actually evil. I made this human flesh. I actually made this human flesh to desire life. The problem is my people are in the place where death is reigning over them and they're separated from life. And so they've been taken from rest and they're laboring for life. And that's bringing forth all manner of sin in them. So the answer is if I can come and conquer the death that's reigning over my people, and then I can promise my people the glorification that their flesh cries for. When they can hear my promise to them that I intend to glorify their physical bodies with immortality, when they can hear my promise, that will actually begin to echo in the chambers of their heart.
Yes.
And their heart will begin to say, oh, well, that's what I've always wanted anyway.
Yeah.
And that puts the flesh to rest. The flesh is laboring for life.
And then you can walk in the Spirit.
Yeah, right. As the spirit of what? The spirit of life.
Yes,
The spirit is the spirit of
to
life.
have fruit and blessings and
That's the spirit